I never allowed myself to process that because I just love my dad no matter what. It was just like, fuck. And I just never understood, why would my dad do that? You know, something must be wrong with me. And just growing up feeling that way, just feeling like not good enough, like no matter what I do, I'm gonna get hit. I get to now heal that, not only for little Gerard, but for my fucking dad and for my fucking grandfather, and like be the one who has the opportunity to like heal that pain so that it no longer continues, and to be the one that helps to transform that and heal that.
Welcome to the Multiverse, where we believe that mushrooms can actually save the world. Each week, we'll be meeting with thought leaders and experts to extract the best insights and stories across everything from functional fungi, psychedelic medicine, and so much more. Thanks for listening. Step into the multiverse with us. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Into the Multiverse. I'm really excited today. And the reason is Gerard Adams is sitting on my couch. And he has a long list of things that he does in the world, a really impressive resume. But I want to start by talking about your hair. Because you showed up today with the most beautiful neon. For people that are listening, go check out the YouTube, version of this episode. Gerard has rainbow hair. And that resonated really deeply with me because one of the themes of my life that I've picked up over the last few months that I want to implement and like bring into every day, it's part of the mantra that I say every morning, is living in color. And you literally painted your head in color. There's no better way to live in color. So first of all, I appreciate that a lot. And I'd like to start off with, I guess what I would prefer to do is have you introduce yourself because, I've read your website. People know you. People know Elite Daily. They know a lot of the things you've built. But like, as it stands right now, how would you describe yourself, who you are in the world?
Wow. That is such a powerful question. And yeah, I just want to say that I'm so stoked to be here and excited to be here. And the hair is definitely a part of this version of me that I've worked hard to step into, which is really just my authentic self. And I think for so long I was defined by what I achieved and what I have done or what I have built, and these things that were external validating factors, because I was craving so much to just feel loved and feel good enough and feel that I, could prove people wrong and all of these things. And even Elite Daily, like that was a part of me that was just craving so much to like prove things that I could build a company and exit one day. And I think the man that stands before you today is truly just Gerard, like the version of me that is playful, and goofy and fun and cares so fucking deeply, cares so deeply for the people that I meet and the people in my life. And as a devoted father and partner to my beloved partner, Ashley, and a man who's just dedicated to becoming the best version of me every day, Kaizen, 1% better every single day, humble student, a creator, someone who loves art. And for so long, I suppressed that version of me. I used to beg my parents to go to art school when I was a kid, and got to go to a museum, got to go to art school. And then something just changed when I was like around that, I don't know, between 10, 12. And that something was like real heavy shit that I went through. And I worked hard over the last 6 years to step into my spiritual path and to like let go of a lot of those limiting beliefs and heal these parts of myself that I didn't recognize were having me wear a mask. And so we could talk more about that, but yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I love business. That's something that I genuinely love. I look at it as like a way to continue to express myself and create things that I feel are extensions of my passion and what I want to see more of in the world. And so, yeah, just right now I'm working on my first book, which I'm really excited about. And so we can talk more about that. But it's Fuck You Dad, Love You Dad, Healing the Father Wound, and Becoming the Leader of Your Lineage. And so that's the latest passion project that I'm working on as an artist, creator, entrepreneur. And I'm stoked to be here.
There's so many directions we could take that. That was a really beautiful introduction. And it's funny because when you go and look up someone online, right? And there's two ways to do podcasts. I've listened, and actually some of my favorite podcasts do them completely differently. There's like the Tim Ferriss's who shows up with like the notes and like the details, and they're like, and in 2012 you said this on an interview, and it's like the detail, and that you often pull like the most interesting things out of people in that way. And there's other really famous interviewers that just show up and they're like, how are you doing today? And then you just dive into this like really beautiful conversation that just comes from like full presence in the moment, complete improv. And I usually actually have way more preparation, but as I shared with you, I dropped my phone in the elevator last night, which was
perfect
in every way. After filming a full day of content and like, preparing to share all that online, which you're really passionate about and I want to chat about. But yeah, it just fell right through the elevator cracks. It's a lot of lessons there as well, but not to derail us too far down that rabbit hole. But I want to start by talking about family, because my contacts with Gerard, and anyone that's listening to this, like, go look up Gerard online. He gave a really humble intro, but has built some incredible things, is very well known, and also just really well respected. And I got introduced to you by my business partner, Brian, who I love very much. And you guys met in probably, I don't know, like 3 to 4 different phases of you ago.
Yeah.
And, I was asking Brian, I was like, what was Gerard like when you first met? And also when you met Brian, he was like 20, right? So it's, a decade ago, and so much can happen in a month. Like, you're probably a different person than you were a month ago. Yeah. But I met you over for the first time. We've had a relationship over Zoom over the last few years.
Fucking Petra.
And Petra, yeah, we meet for the first time over in Jordan.
Yeah.
We met, and then I see you go on stage, and one of the first things you talk about is your family. And you have such a reverence for your family, and such a beautiful way that you speak about your wife and your newborn baby girl. And I just want to talk about like the lessons that have come from that transition. Like, this is a very new phase for you. So maybe how we can structure this question is like, talk about, the version of you were when you met Brian, and how you transitioned into father, husband world.
I love how you're starting there. And yeah, Petra was really epic to finally like just spend time with you and to be in such a magical place. And it's so cool to now be here with you and to also be involved in co-creation with you with Super Mush, and to be back mixing with Brian and seeing his growth. I was an investor in his last company, Looped, and so it's just so cool to continue to be supporting Brian as well, and seeing his evolution as an entrepreneur. It's one of my passions, is just getting behind epic founders that are doing epic shit in the world. And it's like, thank you for building Supermush. Thank you for being the woman and leader that you're being, which is like creating a platform and gosh, like what you've already done, you and Brian, in just like such a short amount of time, with the nonprofit, with microdosing, and with the brand and this platform. It's just like, it's healing so many people, and it's inspiring so many people. And I'm just grateful to be along the ride and supporting that. So thank you for having me be a part of it, and family. Thank you for seeing that version of me, that family is so important to me. And I would say it's the most important thing for me. Family, in the sense of like how I'm living my life at this point and becoming a father, has really took it full circle, where like when I think of fatherhood, I have thought about that through the lens of like how I look at leadership. And I want to play a big fucking game. Like, I'm here to lead really lead a movement, and to make it the biggest impact that I possibly can make for humanity while I can. And when I think about that, I like think about, well, leading and like wanting to lead humanity and like leading in my business and leading on, online or on stage as a thought leader. But when I pull back all those things, it's like, how do I want to lead at home? How do I want to be as a leader to my newborn daughter? And looking at my daughter and saying, like, what does she really need? Like this present, compassionate father, this devoted father, this strong father. And coming into fatherhood has allowed me to really take a good look in the mirror and also like look at the little Gerard and look at the impact of my father and the impact of my grandfather and like what they've had to go through for me to become the man that I am today, and really sit there and there's so many times that growing up I wanted to just say, fuck you, Dad. And I'm good at saying I love you, Dad, because I fucking love my dad. And there were so many times as a young boy that like I wanted to say that, but I couldn't. I was too scared because of what I went through. And that fear that I had at a young age, and then that through that like craving of my dad's approval and his love, created a version of me leading all the way up to meeting Brian, and leading all the way up to the version of me that people saw as this guy who had it all. Sold a $50 million company, speaking at Madison Square Garden, speaking in Egypt, Bali, Japan, you name it. Followers, hundreds of thousands of followers, and all the things that people looked at and was like, this guy's got it all. But deep down, I didn't. Deep down, all of that was just a fucking mask. It was just me trying to be loved and trying to prove myself. And like, God, becoming a dad allowed me to really just like take a moment to slow the fuck down and be like, what's really fucking important, Gerard? And what's really fucking important to me is becoming the best fucking man I can possibly be for my daughter, for my partner, Ashley, for my fucking family. And from that standpoint, now I can lead the fucking family that is us, humanity. Now I can go out into the world and play this big fucking game and lead this God-sized mission that's inside of me to help inspire the future fathers, devoted fathers in the world, and leaders to like lead from this new paradigm that's not this old paradigm that's created war and separation and fucking, anger and violence and rage, but like from a place of like, being strong, yes, and like really fucking caring and vulnerability and being super fucking connected and being able to listen and being able to be affectionate and vulnerable. Like I never knew vulnerability was leadership. I had to wear a mask, a cape, you name it, fucking armor. I put it all on so that I could be a fucking leader. And like what I realized was that wasn't it. Like the real leadership is like taking that fucking armor off, taking that mask off, breaking that mask, taking the armor off little by little, dropping the fucking cape and letting my human spirit be seen, truly seen. Letting little Jeezy, little Gerard be seen. Putting the neon in my hair, because I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I used to go downstairs and see my older sister putting neon fucking colors on her gay best friend Emilio's hair, and I fucking wanted to be like that so bad. I wanted to do it, but it was like, oh no, I'll be gay. My dad won't fucking approve of that. Society won't approve of that. I'll be made fun of by my friends. I'll be bullied even more. And that fucking perpetuated my life, why I joined a gang, why I fucking sold drugs, why I became a fucking entrepreneur. And I love all of it. That hustle fucking gave me a phenomenal life and taught me grit. And full circle, becoming a dad allowed me to integrate that grit with the grace and giving me permission to be fucking myself and to put the fucking neon on my head and to like not worry so much about what other fucking people think of you. And for me, that's my purpose, is to be myself, and is to be, I have an affirmation I mentioned before the show, which is like, I am a loving force of strength and guidance, inspiring the world to be themselves now. And that affirmation came through a ceremony led by my good friend Garen Jones, who you guys are definitely going to hear on this show. I'm the godfather of his daughter, Soul. He's a fucking magical man, a devoted father, a compassionate leader, and it's changed my life. And he put me through the first ceremony where I really got to sit with my inner child And through that process, that affirmation came through. And so I want my daughter to know, and I want all of us, because we're all fucking children on this damn big ass fucking planet spinning around. We're all a bunch of kids, and we don't got to take this shit so serious. And I want my daughter to know, like, be yourself. Like, you're loved. Like, daddy loves you no matter what. You cannot do anything wrong. And I love you. And there's so many fucking broken children on this planet because they did not feel seen by their dads, or they weren't loved by their fucking dads, you know, or they didn't get to fucking say fuck you, dad, or they didn't get, they said all the fuck yous you can think of, but they never got to say I love you, dad. And there's a whole, that's like a whole big, you know, there's a lot there to go into. But yeah, that's the work of my life.
Man, you said so much there. Raven's behind the scenes over here, who's working with Gerard on his book, and she's just like putting her hands in the air, like celebrating. No, that was a whole TED Talk. It was amazing. There's so much that we could talk about, but the thing that kept coming back for me around where do I want to go next with this is, for some context to this question. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I'm really into, you know, I've looked into past lives stuff. I'm really interested in this whole, you know, idea. My friend that I spoke to about this, they gave me this really beautiful concept of what our soul contract is. And that, you know, when you're born, you know, the body makes a contract with the soul, and you are, you know, you make an agreement that you're going to fulfill a life purpose, and that you choose your parents. And why that's really interesting is because we all, you know, so much trauma, you know, it sounds like a lot of basis of your book is this relationship that you have with your father that probably created so many beautiful qualities about you, but our best qualities are often our worst, right? It's like this beautiful parallel. And when I heard that, I was like, damn, I chose my parents. I was like, that is the perfect people to raise me. Like, you know, there's all these souls floating around the planet and you're going around like making all these little interviews, but like the parents don't know that they're getting interviewed at the same time. And there's crazy shit with it. Like, honestly, if anyone wants to look this up, you know, there's stories around children reporting to their parents like, oh, I remember the moment you guys decided to have me on this beach in Mexico, blah, blah, blah. And the parents are like, we never told anyone that story. How do you know that? You know, children were, you know, there's all this crazy stuff with past lives. But just to double click on the choosing your parents, whatever you want to share about your dad, I think would be really powerful for people to hear about, because there's so much of, you know, victim mentality around our parental relationships, no matter how beautiful they are. And for me, that a lot of that changed when I just realized, oh, my parents were just people that decided to have a baby, you know, like they're not, their sole purpose on this planet isn't to like be my parent and be all these things. And they're beautiful, wonderful people. But just inherently trauma is going to come when we just like, you know, have such a focus point on like wanting these people or anyone to be our everything. So can you just talk about like your relationship with your dad, if you felt like you chose your dad potentially?
Wow, that's so cool. I actually never thought of that before. Like, and I do. I believe that for sure. And oh gosh, it's like, I'm so grateful for my father and what our journey, you know, and I believe that this is something that I chose to go through to be able to transform in this lifetime for what I'm here to create going forward for future generations. And it's not even just my father, but I believe in what you talked about, and I believe in choosing our parents, but it's also, I feel like it's a lineage, you know. And I think about my grandfather and my great grandfather and my mother and my great grandmothers, and like all of their journey and the vision that they had and the work that they did and the pain and the suffering and the triumphs of what they went through to have a vision of one day having the great grandkids that would be able to have the freedom and have the love. And there was a vision there. And I feel like then it's like, okay, I see this family. I'm going to choose to come through in this lifetime and choose my parents. And you don't see it that way. Like once we're kids, you don't know what you don't know. And it's like, it took me so long to get out of the victim and to step into reverence and gratitude for what I've gone through with my father and for my ancestry. But growing up, when my father, you know, would take out his anger and his rage, not only on me, but, you know, just, you know, my mother, like I would be in the car scaring my mother and just breaking fucking things. And, you know, and then I would be getting, you know, hit with the belt constantly. And it just was like to a point where I remember as a little kid feeling like I'm going to go numb and like, just take me. Like there's nothing left for me to give Dad. Like just take my fucking life. Like, you know, because he was just fucking whacking me with this fucking belt. It's like, and I never allowed myself to process that because I just love my dad no matter what. It was just like, fuck. And I just never understood, why would my dad do that? You know, something must be wrong with me. And just growing up feeling that way, just feeling like not good enough, like no matter what I do, like I'm going to get hit. I'm going to be like I'm not a good person. I'm broken or some shit. Like just, and it just caused me to have this fear. And it took a while because what ended up happening was like, it was just like pretty much unconscious, right? Like it created these like subconscious beliefs about myself for so long that caused me to like fucking become this, you know, this version of me that's like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to conquer and I'm going to lead. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to, I want to help others and I'm going to lead others. And it helped to become who I am today. But it's been challenging to go back and to like, you know, honor like everything that I've gone through, but really go back and just like hold little Gerard and just be like that wasn't okay. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. And even right now I can feel like little Gerard, like scared. Like I'm scared right now to open up about this. You know, like I'm still scared to talk about it. I'm still scared of like you know, what my dad will think, or you know, it's hard. And I just like, at least now I have the awareness to like hold that for a moment and just like be with that and recognize that, okay, my dad loves me. I know that, went through that. What the fuck did my dad go through? For my dad to have to go through that, like what did his father go through? And now what an opportunity for me to be the torchbearer, to be the one that gets to say, hey, I get to now heal that. Not only for little Gerard, but for my fucking dad and for my fucking grandfather, and like be the one who has the opportunity to like heal that pain so that it no longer continues, and to be the one that helps to transform that and heal that, you know, even for my dad, like, and just have compassion for what he's gone through as well. And it's allowed me to step into this level of now responsibility, that it's like, okay, it's now my responsibility. I've chosen that path for it to be hard, for me to go through this. But how fucking dope is it that I chose that so that I can have this conversation, so that I can be the one that shifts my lineage, that helps to heal all of the pain and the suffering that my father and my father's father went to World War II. God knows what he did to my dad. I have no idea. We never even talk about his dad. My dad, for the very first time, just opened up to me. And I mean, like, the door cracked open. Me becoming a dad, I finally went out on a boat. Me, my dad, Ashley's father. It was like one of the initiations. I was like on this boat, cigars, like, hey, I'm coming into dad life. Like, this is fucking epic. Like, what can you teach me about becoming a dad? And on that boat, celebrating, I felt this divine, like, message. I was like, you can ask your dad. Every other time I've ever tried to bring up my grandfather, it was the hell fucking no. Like, We didn't go to his funeral. We didn't talk about him. Like something's there that just has never been healed with my dad and his dad.
Yeah.
And obviously that came through me. And I finally asked my dad, so Dad, what did you learn from your dad? Every other time it's been shut down. And that was the first time my dad opened up that door slightly and was just like, I saw him think about it. And he was like, my dad taught me how to be tough. And that was it. But that was enough for me. Like, it's like a fresh breath air. Like he fucking opened up a little bit about his dad. And I know that was healing for my dad. And now I had a glimpse of how he helped me be fucking tough. I'm a tough motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm fucking grateful that I've been through the shit that I've been through with my dad. Like, you could put me in fucking anywhere. Like, I will kill for love. Like, I will die on a fucking sword. You know? And I wouldn't be that version of me if it wasn't for what I went through with my dad and what my dad went through with his dad. And that little glimpse that my dad gave me was so healing for not only me, but more for him. And it was healing for me to see my dad open up about his, you know, and things have been opening up for me. Now, all of a sudden I'm learning about my grandfather. I just found out he had a purple heart. So it's like, how cool is that my grandfather had a purple heart? God knows what he's went through. God knows what happened with him and my dad. But I know that I'm grateful. I'm grateful for what he went through. I'm grateful that he served our country. I'm grateful that he went through what he went through. And I'm so sorry that my dad has gone through that pain, and because I can only imagine how it feels for him. And when I called my dad and was like, Dad, I'm writing a book called Fuck You, Dad. Love You, Dad.
How'd that go?
Healing the father wound and becoming the leader of your lineage. Now, my dad probably thought I was going to write some business leadership book. Like, what the fuck? I was so scared to tell him that. And he was just like, that's why I love my dad. Because every time I went to take risks and I wanted to do shit differently, my dad has always empowered me. He's always instilled in me leadership skills and empowered me my whole life. And I love him so much for that. And as much as I was scared in that moment, he was just like, if that's what the world needs, go, son, do that. And I knew when he answered that question, it was because he knew that this shit was coming to the surface. And he knows that this is not only going to be healing for me, this is not only going to be healing for him, which is fucking massive for my father, but this is going to fucking help heal the fucking world, the fucking planet. And I'm just so grateful for that. So now I've come into this place where I continue to hold little Gerard, continue to have compassion, continue to now actually be a compassionate leader for my dad. Like, how cool is it that we as the new ancestors get to also be healing and also be now leaders for our fucking dads and our mothers and our great grandparents. And then also for our kids, because they don't got to carry it anymore.
There's so much that you just said that's going to resonate with a lot of people. And I think it's actually a really great transition into psychedelics, because a lot of what psychedelic experience does for people is exactly what you're describing. Like, a lot of it is you go into these experiences and you're able to actually look at what is generational trauma and how is that showing up in your body, because a lot of people don't realize what it is. And first of all, before we kind of shift into this, I just want to say thank you for sharing that. It's a big deal. You feel like you feel the vulnerability, you feel the authenticity and everything that you are. And I also think, it all makes sense. Like, the reason why you feel the reverence when you talk about your family is because you've experienced all of these things. And you wouldn't feel how deep and how passionate you are if you didn't have, the other end of the spectrum to really like pull from. So I think that's really beautiful. And so I just really want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I'm curious actually how much of where you've landed with your dad and understanding your family, lineage, where you came from, different things that may be showing up in your personality, how much of that has come from your work with psychedelics. And you're pretty public and open about it. And, part of the reason why we started this podcast is, one, to like really figure out where people come from, and then figure out where psychedelics enter the picture somewhere along that journey. and
Mm.
how psychedelic medicine affects people's lives, because a lot of what I've experienced personally, and hundreds of people around me, I have hundreds of conversations on and off the podcast all the time around the healing powers of both functional mushrooms and psychedelics. But one of the most common things that I hear, and one of my first major experiences with psilocybin specifically, was tracing back through my life from birth until present day, sometimes even beyond. I've seen, definitely had visions of my death, and it's really beautiful. I think about death a lot, but going back and unearthing little versions of myself, having conversations with that child version of myself, or that teenage version of myself. And like, you're sitting there, like, this is you current day, having a conversation, in a psychedelic experience. So often, when you're in full ceremony, eye mask, music, like you're in it, you're watching a movie. So you're there conversing and having a conversation, exactly what you just described. Like, hey, you're good. You're safe. This is what actually happened. Let's clear this up so this doesn't show up as the trauma in your knee. But now you can actually figure out that that's where that's from. And then you've used it, right? You've like that trauma in your knee has served you really well. Or like that trauma that caused like hyper, drive that maybe bulldozed over people in life before this point. It served you, and it's helped you get to this place where now you have resource. Like, it's not necessarily the only path, but now you can transition out of it and let it go. And then you continue to trace through the timeline. It's never over, right? You continue to do this until you die. But how much of your journey with this has, been with psychedelics, and whatever you want to share about your experience with psychedelics?
Oh yeah. I have so much love for plant medicine and reverence for psychedelics, and I just love this third wave, and like so much gratitude to all of the leaders that have come before us that have paved the way for now this to continue to come to the forefront of mental health and supporting people with trauma and creating more oneness and love and unity and peace on this planet. And I know it's not for everyone, and I just want to say that, in sharing, I've been public about my psychedelic experiences, and it's something that is really a decision and a choice that's for you, that you have to make for yourself. And it's not necessarily, well, I'm unsure if it's for everyone. Sometimes I do feel like everyone just needs to take a little bit of fucking mushrooms and realize we're a bunch of kids on this planet. And but yeah, it really is a decision for you. And when is the right time that it makes sense for you to explore it? And if not, and then that's cool too. Like, if you feel completely at peace and at love, and like, take your time, like, don't it's so easy to kind of see coming to the forefront and think it's like the cool thing, it's the new wave, like, let me go and experiment. But it's like, take your time, really listen to your heart and listen to your soul, and see if it's something that is calling you forth, and treat it with reverence. And for me, like, when you were just sharing and you were talking about those like moments of like connecting to your inner child and having those conversations, and then all of a sudden, like, the plant medicine, opens up these this wisdom, this inner wisdom, it guides us to opening up these like doors to that we haven't necessarily opened and we haven't looked at. And I have so many stories. I mean, it's been amazing, like healing trauma from when my grandmother died. And I was like, I sobbed. I didn't know that my little boy needed to cry so fucking bad. Ayahuasca ceremony was like the most epic. And it also allowed me to connect and understand the divine feminine, which then allowed me to meet Ashley, the mother of my child. And I've had so many really epic experiences. But the one I wanted to speak to primarily was in coming into fatherhood, continuing to lean on psychedelics as a teacher for me. And as I was going through this rite of passage, I like went to a ceremony, and what was really cool, the conversation this time wasn't with the little Gerard, it was with the ancestor version of Gerard. And I started seeing everyone as the ancestor. And so like, as you were talking, I was looking at you and I was just like, wow, look at Allie. How cool is it that I get to be with Allie right now? Like, in her youth and vibrance, and seeing all of you right now, and seeing you as the grandmother, seeing that in you, like the reverence for you, and like just the grandmother in you, the mother in you, that you're continuing to like grow into, if obviously if you're called, but like seeing that archetype in you, and just like honoring that. And I remember on this particular ceremony where I saw the grandfather in me, and I connected to the grandfather in me and honored the grandfather in me, and then walked around and started seeing everyone as like the grandmother and grandfather, and it was so beautiful. And in that particular ceremony, that allowed me to look through that lens of like how to live my life, knowing that like that is part of my path, and one day I'll be old as fuck, and like really making decisions now as like I'm not guaranteed time, and so making decisions that are aligned to that version of me that's valuing my time and my energy and being so intentional, versus where I used to kind of be so sporadic and chaotic with my energy and not as intentional and going after the external things. Now it's like being very intentional and seeing like taking the time to like admire things and see the details, and like that was really, really powerful for me. And in that ceremony, spirit guided me through. I was like, how do I make sure that I'm prepared for Skyla, my daughter? We didn't know her name at the time. I was like, my daughter, like, can you help me to be more prepared for my daughter? And spirit guided me through a death of both my partner, Ashley, and my daughter. And so I ended up grieving as if they died, and truly believed that they died while I was in this psychedelic experience, and like having so much guilt and shame and processing all of that. It was so fucking difficult. The healer, I call her Mother Mary. Her name's Stacy. Shout out to you, Stacy. I love you. She kept coming back, and I'd be like, please tell me they're okay. Please tell me they're okay. Like, I can't believe this. And she would be like, they're okay, honey. We're working on you right now, but they're okay. And I was like, oh no. And like 10 seconds later, I'm like, oh, they're fucking okay. But what happened was it allowed me to go to the depths of my fear, the depths of what it would be like to lose the mother and my partner, and also my child. And then all for God to be like, you, as much as you're going to want to provide and protect them, you have to trust me. You have to be able to let go, to be able to trust in the divine, that I got this. And like, do the best you can, but know that like you have to surrender to the divine. And it was like, so the amount of appreciation coming out of that psychedelic experience, like I called Ashley sobbing, like, I fucking love you. And in that, as I came out of that wasn't the only lesson. The other lesson was, and if you want to love your daughter and be the best dad you can be, love the mother. Love your child through loving the mother. And I realized that I was withholding a level of love with Ashley that it was like, oh man, like what am I really afraid of? I'm afraid of being hurt. I'm afraid of not being enough for her. Like there was all these fears that I had to work through, and I let all that shit go. Like I fucking took the biggest shit of my life. Like literally, like I had to run to the toilet in my psychedelic experience, and it was like, if I would have let go of the toilet, I swear, like Elon, like I'll meet you at the moon. Like it was like I let go of all my shit, like all of it. And it was like the most funny shit ever. And it was like cleaning me the fuck out of all of the things that I was holding on to, that was shame and guilt, and stepping into really loving Ashley for who she is, accepting her, all of her. And that was such a freaking huge thing. I sobbed calling her after the psychedelic experience, like, I love you so much. And it got me to such a deeper appreciation. And it also, through that psychedelic experience, showed me all of these versions of a woman, from the moment you're born to the moment you become the great grandma, like all of the versions of a woman, like the fucking snot, fucking shit in her teeth. Like I was like thinking of all these versions of her, like growing up and like feeling like insecure about herself, like as a little kid, and like, you know, crying and sobbing, and like me just like sitting there and saying like, I got you. Like I got you. I love you. I got you through all of your things that you're going to grow through, little girl. I love you, and I got you. And I got to see all of those versions through Mother Mary. It was unbelievable. And I was like, whoa, I never realized. Because as men, we don't know what the fuck you go through. We don't know what it's like to our moon and have it go through your period and go through puberty and go through, being a woman. Like being a woman is so fucking difficult. I feel like today I will never understand of what it's like to be you and like what you have to go through. And especially now with society, like how much like is projected that like you have to have fucking big lips, big ass, big this, big that. Like so many things for women that I've had to feel that they have had to be perfect to be loved. And like I got to experience that through this psychedelic experience that just allowed me to really just have a glimpse of what it's like for my daughter to grow up, and never thinking about that, really seeing that and being able to like, so through that entire thing of like the death, seeing the different versions, then seeing the ancestor in everyone and recognizing the ancestor in me. Like I came out of that's just one ceremony. And I'm telling you the amount of, so plant medicine has played such a huge role in me opening up and seeing things like I've never seen them before, so that I can go even deeper with my love for myself and deeper love for the people, for humanity, for my family. And I've had to heal some really crazy shit. We can talk about, I got stories on stories of all those ceremonies.
I mean, that's such a good opener. And I think, it's really interesting how everyone answers this question around how do psychedelics play a role in your life, right? And like you said, that's just one ceremony. There's so much in that. The reason why it's 10 years of therapy in one session is because of what you just said. Like there's so much in that. The amount of opening, the amount of connection that you experience through one ayahuasca ceremony or, one, intentional psilocybin ceremony is so profound. Some people only do one, and some people it's something that is a part of their life for a season. Some people it's forever. Something that came up for me as you were talking, and it's also funny because like there's a lot of parallels, right? You'll hear people talk about the most common thing that people come out of ceremony with is we are all one, and it sounds so cliche, but it's this feeling that people get, right? And there's a lot of patterns that people come out of experiences with. And when you talked about that retracing and seeing from birth to death, and a lot of thinking about death, right? Like the ultimate lesson that comes out of psychedelics for most people is die before you die. Ego death. What does that mean? It means you actually experience dying before you die, and then you are able to actually live with the appreciation for life that you should actually have, right? Or you have someone in your life die, and something that happens in psychedelics, sometimes it's not real and sometimes it is. And both of those things give you the massive perspective that gives you the ability to actually live your life fully in color, like you should. And I had multiple experiences through multiple different medicines where I've seen my form, like my physical body form, which is really interesting, especially for women. And why I felt called to share it is because like women are so hard on themselves with their body, and it's because of society, right? And I saw the physical form of my body from birth. And I was like a really ugly baby. I was like 10 and a half pounds. I had a massive cone head. It's like a really funny photo I'll show you. I might have shown you in Jordan. But I saw my baby self transition. It was like caveman style, the visuals of cavemen going through like caveman, and then it's like kind of more of whatever evolved monkey, and then you like go and then you're like businessman in a suit, that kind of like transition. I saw that but with my body. So like silhouettes, and like some seasons I was like in great shape and like and then some seasons I was like, oh, like not so much. And then you see your body transition through illness, through health, through vitality, and I saw myself go from birth to death. And it was really cool. And then the other thing I wanted to share, because I think it's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given, and it re-triggered in me when you shared this. But this idea that you're kind of conversing with other versions of yourself is something I think about a lot. It's like when I'm making a decision, I have a consultation in my head with, my 40-year-old self, my 50-year-old self. For some reason, it's like decades easier to think about, but like 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and they all have a conversation because they're all going to respond very differently.
It's so true. Even making decisions from the inner child too. Like I realized like little Gerard, when I reconnected to him, he was also like,
super
you
wise.
forgot about me. It's like,
pull him in,
right,
pull him into the boardroom, like pull him in
into the council.
And pull him into the council and like have a conversation with all those different versions. Cause like, I think when we react so immediately, it's like, it's just from this charged current version of yourself versus like actually being like, okay, what mattered? What's going to matter? And how do you like pull all those together and then react from that place? So anyway, that someone gave me that advice a really long time ago. I can't remember if it was through a book, a podcast, what it was, but it was really resonant. I wanted to share it because it inspired.
I love that, because I feel like, life, it does come down to choice, like the work of coming back to devoted father, coming back to becoming a leader in your lineage. And when I think about leadership, it's like, it's about responsibility. And when you think about responsibility, it's about response. How are we responding to life? And so many people are unconsciously going through life reacting. We have dopamine on dopamine on dopamine, react. And so that was me. Reacting, staying in the hustle mode, the fucking grind mode, the fucking needing approval, needing to be liked, And so much is like this unconscious. And then you're manifesting all of these things that you actually, that's basically the things that you're resisting. You're like, how many of us start to sabotage what we really want, and we're manifesting and perpetuating the things that we're actually deep down scared of. And I think that's part of the human experience. And I think when you get to a point of awareness where you're able to choose responsibly, what do I really want in this, and take a second to connect to that counsel, connect to that little Gerard, little Allie, that 40-year-old or 50-year-old, the ancestor version. Like, okay, do I really want to do this? Is this really mine to do? Is this what I want to do? And what am I afraid of? What am I really afraid of? And like giving yourself that time so that you can respond consciously. And I think that's like, for me, been one of the most powerful skills that I've been working on in my life, and that I work on with my clients, because it's decision making. Because once we can become empowered to make decisions responsibly based on what it is, that who we really are and what we really, really want, that's fucking powerful. Now all of a sudden it's like, you're fucking limitless. You are completely limitless in what you want to build and what you want to create and who you want to become. It's like you're now in charge, and you're choosing that. That's such a fucking powerful place. That's freedom. And yeah, so thank you for sharing that, because I feel like that's really cool that that's how you're going about making choices and decisions, and we're living in it. We're living in your manifestation.
Trying to. Sometimes it definitely, it's when I make a good decision. That's often where it comes from. What I'd love to know a little bit more tactically for people that, if you've gotten to this far in the podcast, a little bit about your essence and who you are. You do a quick Google. Kind of what you're up to in the world, and more like tactically, how do psychedelics show up in your day-to-day world? How do they make their way into your modern life?
Well, I'm microdosing right now. I mean, great. It's in my day-to-day life. And
microdosing, and like, for people, some people listen to this podcast and they are super familiar, but like microdosing psilocybin.
Yeah, microdosing psilocybin right now.
Okay.
And it's very integrated into my life, not from a standpoint of like wanting to have this hallucinogenic, but just I use it as a modality, the same way that I wake up and I meditate, the same way that I, do my breath work before starting a podcast, or, stretch and move my body and dance. It's incorporated in just the way that I live my life, and it works for me, and it allows me to continue to stay. It's like very subtle, like it's like a very, very subtle thing that allows me to just stay connected to my heart, and I don't become reliant. What's important is not to become reliant on it, and it's for me, it kind of just, I use it as like a kind of like a bowling alley, like in a way, where it's like, it just kind of, sometimes you just need an adjustment, like a chiropractor, just like, it helps me to connect again to my heart and process some things, or connect more with nature. But yeah, it's a part of my day-to-day life. And I remember after my first ayahuasca ceremony, I was like, I'm never doing this. I'm good. Like, I'm good. I went to the shaman. I'm like, I'm good. Like, I don't need night 2. And then night 2 came, and I saw the courage of everyone going up for a cup. And I was like, fuck, all right, I could do this. And so like, throughout my journey, there's been moments where I'm like, I'm good. I don't need any more ceremonies. But somehow, some way, an invitation will come. And I just follow that little decision making. For me, I really use, when you talked about a little more tactics, for me, my favorite strategy is human design, using human design. I'm a manifesting generator. I'm a 2-4. We teach that in with my client. Like we really work with incorporate that with my clients.
So helpful, human design.
And so for me, my spiritual authority is my sacral. And so it's a very subtle or we can call it like our gut instinct. And that's where my authority is. And it's and knowing that, and that's where my defined spiritual authority is, it just allows me to kind of like really sit with that. So when the invitation comes for psychedelic, whether it's a microdose, whether it's a whole Aya ceremony presented to me or whatever, or just life, like I just take that moment to say, like ask myself that question. If it's a all right, I'm in. If it's a nuh-uh, like I just don't do it. It doesn't have to make sense, but I just, trust myself. And, that's one of the things that I recommend. I think it's becoming more at the forefront, human design, but it's cool. Like depending if you're a manifestor, a generator, a reflector, a projector, and based on if your 9 energy centers. We used to have 7 energy centers, which are the chakras. Now we're at 9, and in 2027, as a species, we're actually evolving, and even beyond that 9 to be the highest level of Homo sapiens, like human beings that we've ever been. Like the children that are said to be coming into the world in around 2027 are even more advanced in understanding these energy centers.
They're going to come out with just colored hair. Like,
yeah, I guess so.
They're just going to be born like that.
Yeah. And I think it's happening, right? Like we're already seeing the transition. Like I see that the way I'm raising my daughter. I see that with all my friends that are now like having children. I think of us, right? Look at how we're awakened. Think about how much awakening is happening on the planet. So by 2027, it's like the world is really, rising to a new level of consciousness. And it looks pretty dark and bleak right now, but I like to think that it's all part of that death portal and that process for us to truly go to the next level and awaken. And going back to the 9 energy centers, there's a defined or open center, and depending on where those centers are, which is like the spleen or the heart or the throat chakra, the sacral, kind of helps to. They all represent something. Represent the ego. They represent, just speaking and like different aspects of yourself, and you can learn like how you make decisions like best. And for some people, it's like really evaluating and taking like a month before making a decision. So yeah, I highly recommend it, but that's like the number one tactic that I currently use and how I'm going about my even integrating psychedelics. And most of the time though, that if I get an invitation and it feels scary, I usually lean towards that. Like, fuck, like if I'm like a little bit scared, I'm like, oh, I can feel it in my gut. I'm like, this is the next level. Fuck. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, you're listening to it, it's like that. Oh, like, I'm scared. I want to do it. But it's like, that's where the next level of growth is. And it's that's like that saying that where we resist persist. And so I've gotten a little more comfortable when I ask that decision. I can feel it where it's like, this is uncomfortable. And if it's uncomfortable, uncertain, and hard, most of the time that is where your growth is.
Yeah, that's so well said. And, more is not always better. Like part of the reason why I'm such a fan of microdosing is it's like this subtle shift in perception. It's not like, it's a lot of my most powerful experiences, which I talk about a lot, have come in microdosing because you're in your life, you're slightly neuroplastic, you're able to actually, be in your world where like, the goal is not to go experience all this profound shit in the cosmos and then just say like, that was incredible. Right. It's like integrate it into the modern, into your day-to-day life. Which we all know it's, the goal is just to kind of close the gap between the cosmos and the 3D.
Yeah. On that, I just want to say like, cause that's such an important part where it's like, we're talking big shit right now, ancestry, lineage, and all, but it's like one of the greatest things about psychedelics also is like, it allows us to become kids again and like come back and be like, yo, let's just fucking be kids and play and have fun and enjoy this shit. Like life is short. Like let's enjoy it. And it doesn't need to all be so serious and so hard. It's like, let's have some fucking fun.
Yep. Our mutual friend Blue, she says this, and I love it. It's, you know, the idea that over seriousness is one of the biggest diseases on the planet, and it's so true.
Definitely.
And from that place of lightness, like, you create so much. Something you said that I think is, you know, a good kind of like one of our last closing questions here. We'll have to have you back on because there's so much more that we need to tap into. But is that you talked about psychedelics as a
for life, you know, I'm gonna be the grandpa, you're gonna be grandma.
100%. No, we're just gonna be in the same outfits, but 90. Yeah. And talking about all the consultations we've had with our 70-year-old selves, our 60-year-old selves, and so on and so on.
More tats, more colors in my hair, right? Longer fucking gray beard.
We'll have all the kids here.
Yeah. I would have flown here in my floating Tesla vehicle.
I know we just probably have, what are they called? Like the shoes, the rocket shoes?
Oh yeah, rocket shoes.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a thing, but we should make those. Tie-dye rocket shoes. So you talked about psychedelics as a part of the wellness conversation, and this is huge because it's not this silver bullet thing. It's like, how do psychedelics make their way into your life just as nutrition or fitness or any of these other things do? And I love when people talk about that, because part of the reason why we started this podcast is like help elevate the conversation, learn about people's lives, what makes them, you know, happy, successful, whatever that means, and thrive. And there's a lot of elements to that. You do not just take psychedelics and not take care of yourself and your relationships in any other way and heal any of that stuff. It's an additive. And if you take them from like a healthy, normal place, that's when you get to human optimization, right? You can take them to get from a 0 to a 5 where you don't have necessarily a clinical indication of a mental disorder, anxiety, depression. But this human optimization side of psychedelics is what I love to talk about and think about. So if you're someone that falls into this category of healthy, normal, we all have our shit, but like healthy, normal-ish, where you're a high-functioning human in society, psychedelics can help take you from like that 8 to a 12.
Yes.
And that's what's really powerful as a part of the wellness thing. Like, so you have your sauna, your cold plunge, your nutrition, your whatever, all your biohacky stuff. Oh, God. And psychedelics potentially as a part of that ritual. Or maybe not. Maybe you just meditate a lot because you can access that state anyways. So I love that you said that. And, you know, everything that we're doing company-wise is fully legal, functional mushrooms. Yeah. And so it's a point that I wanted to tap on because we talk a lot about, you know, a lot of our, you know, our business ventures together with Supermush, which is a fully legal functional mushroom supplement.
And that's also part of, like the daily. It's like I use Supermush and I also have my mud water and like it's like incorporating that.
And lion's mane, which is a completely legal functional mushroom, is equally as powerful as psilocybin. You often stack it with, I guarantee, 90% chance the microdose you took is stacked with psilocybin and maybe, vitamin D3 and bacopa and other functionals that are, herbal adaptogens that work together to make these compounds more powerful. And so there are fully legal, ways to access neuroplasticity, whether it's through lion's mane, cordyceps for athletic performance. And so I just wanted to tap on those. And I always like to just double click on the fact that all mushrooms are really powerful. And if you're listening to this and, psychedelics aren't approachable to you yet, or they're scary to you, like start with functional mushrooms, like put some lion's mane and cordyceps in your system. You might feel that more than you'll feel the psilocybin if you microdose. So I just wanted to click on that point. I know you're passionate about those as well.
I'm so glad you brought that up. And to be honest, like I feel like I'm interested in learning more about that, like psychedelics for me became a little bit easier as my path over the last 6 years. And it's like, geez, like I wonder how much longer it would have taken me to become this version of me. It probably would have taken, who knows, decades, to be honest, in my opinion. Like I feel like it's been so beautiful, like the healing that's being created. And the functional side is actually really interesting to me. And I think there's a lot more opportunity to get educated in how we can incorporate this in our day-to-day lives beyond the hallucinogen side, and just like the healing nutrients that are a part of it's like unbelievable. Like the more that I pull back and do my research, it's like, oh my God, how can I not? Of course, we all want to be healthier versions of ourselves. Like who are we without our health? We want to become the best version of ourselves. We all have that in common. And yeah, it's just, it's so cool to see companies like Supermush that are leading in that way. And it's, providing other avenues for people to learn about the benefits of mushrooms. I mean, it's so cool. And like, I love how now there's all the documentaries now on Netflix and Like I'm like learning like, oh shit, I didn't know. It's not just from a plane of like going to ceremony, but it's like the fucking whole underneath earth, what's it called? Like mycelium is like what? Like, yo, you guys see that shit? I never
No,
like it's,
mushrooms run the world. Once you start to learn,
yo,
mushrooms run the world. Humans are just our like chess players. You know?
yeah.
Like, mushrooms are the chessboard for sure. Yeah.
It's like it's really unbelievable the intelligence that is like all around us. I mean, Earth, come on.
Earth, man.
Come on.
It's wild.
Come on.
No, I think we're so closely related to mushrooms. Like this is a whole other thing. So I won't go too far down this rabbit hole. Everyone that's listening has heard me talk about this a million times. Obviously, I care about mushrooms. But a few more questions for you, and we'll have to have you back on.
Cool.
And maybe we'll just maybe next time we just do a different hair dye.
Definitely.
Every time.
Definitely. I actually wanted, if I had a little more time, my plan was to come with the exact same neon. But what I wanted to do was put little mushrooms in my because my Instagram profile pic has a mushroom coming out of my head.
What?
Yeah.
Really? Currently it does?
Yeah, currently.
Okay, check that out. Okay. All right, amazing. I love that.
For Burning Man, I gotta maybe get some mushrooms for the Burning Man.
I love that. Okay, a few final questions for you. Vision, next steps over the next just 6 months, things that you're excited about that you want to share with people. You've kind of, shared some of it, but like a little bit more, tactically on like, how are you spending your time? What do you want to share with people that are looking for what's next for you?
Oh, thank you for the invitation. And it's taking my company Leaders Create Leaders to another level with this work around ancestral leadership and helping people to define their legacy so that they can start living it now. And for me, this book is like the gateway for me. That's like helping to guide me into creating new frameworks. And I've been building a path, essentially. Like I've just worked on new principles and a new path for how my retreats and the way that the next version of my mastermind, I paused everything this year to step into fatherhood and to start working on this book and to really refine this message, refine my frameworks and my teachings, and take my time and slow down because this is the work of my lifetime and beyond, my legacy. And I get to embody what it is that I'm looking to support other leaders with. And so I've been really just coming into right now over the next 6 months, more into the embodiment, getting to a point where it's just so unconscious, being able to talk about ancestral leadership and understanding the path. And I'm calling upon, my ancestors. I'm talking to other thought leaders, and I'm doing research, and I'm working with my wonderful team, one of which is here, Raven Royce. I would not be where I am here. Raven. Shout out to Raven. Shout out to Cyrus, to my partner, Ashley. Just there's so many people that have been supporting me. And so it's really just refining these frameworks. And then I'm kicking off I've done this retreat for years, but the next one I'm actually now incorporating this ancestral leadership path, which is I'm so stoked with, because it's going through work around the mother, work around the father, work around owning your story, what it really means to honor your sacred story and to tell your story powerfully. The path of stepping more into your divinity and creativity, and just there's so much there that I'm really excited, and there's a path that I've created for those that are ready to step into becoming the leader in their lineage and what it means to be an ancestral leader. And so I'm really excited about that, focusing on that. And then in December, that's going to be the kickoff event. And so it's in Sion Khan outside of Tulum. I know Tulum is, gotten quite the impression recently, and stigma, I would say, more so. But I really love going back because it's played a really special place in my heart, the Mayan culture. And so many people go to Tulum to take. And I like to do my events there and really give back to that land and support that land. And we work with the children there. We have there's a special cave I take my clients to, and a special home that's in a biosphere that's been marked by the World Heritage Association. We're literally the only a home that I do this at that's like in the middle of this untouched area that's so special. And like, oh God, like like the energy there is just fucking epic. Spiral staircase. It's art. It's art. And you're middle of the oceans on one side and the jungles on the other. And it's like, it's just so cool. And we're going to be working through playing together, art, storytelling, and stepping into more of the ancestral healing that gets to happen so that there could be more devotion for the fathers and the mothers that everyone is, I feel, stepping into, whether or not you have a kid or not. You know, again, like I think that's, if you can look at your business, if you can look at the way you're leading from that place of like the mother or the grandmother or the father or the grandfather, like you watch how everything changes. Like I now lead my team that way. I have calls with them. I care deeply about them. I'm asking them about their vision. I'm talking to them about their goals. I'm asking them, how are they? What's really going on? You know, and when you start to lead in that way and people really know you fucking care, and it's not just based on measurable results and KPIs, like watch how much more productivity, watch how much more your business grows over the next year, guaranteed. Let alone your happiness, let alone the more connected you are to your actual family and your fucking friends that fucking love you and that you've been neglecting, and yourself, and your partner, and you know, the world.
I'm so excited about everything you're creating and just to continue to watch. And I think you're the perfect person to do it. Very uniquely, everyone's always uniquely qualified to do the work that they're doing when they're on purpose. But you know, you're uniquely qualified to do this work because you've built really epic shit, right? And you've gone through your journey and you're, you know, in a really embodied place. Like my experience with you is just like you're embodied. Like I've seen, you know, I've been over in Jordan with Gerard. Like the last thing I'll kind of share before we do our last question is that, you know, you have so many people coming up to you wanting to chat, wanting to drop in, and you give every person that same level of presence, no matter if they're speaking on the stage, no matter if they're working in the restaurant. It's like, just, you could care less. It's just, you're so present with every person and the world feels very flat for you. There's no hierarchy. And I think that's, you know, I have a lot of respect for that. And that's something that
Fuck yes. Thank you so much for seeing that within me. Thank you.
My last question for you is, I always ask people this in theme, I'm motioning to my wall here, into the multiverse. It is a podcast around you're petting the moss wall. We love the moss wall here. It's held a lot of great conversations. But what is the most important lesson that you would say psychedelics have taught you?
To love myself. Period. To love myself. You know, I think that's when it all comes back to, for me, is like, I learned to love my fucking self. And through loving myself, I now can love and see everyone truly for what they are, which is love. And yeah, it's just been, that to me was just, that was like the main thing, for sure. Understanding and feeling love, like God's love, like all of that, the fucking gravity of it, and like the true love. Like a lot of times we say unconditional love, but love is unconditional. You don't have to say unconditional love, just fucking love, real fucking love. And I'm grateful for that gift. I mean, you know, it's like my mother. She loved me like so much. Like I called my mom today. I'm like, thank you so much, Mom. Like, thank you so much for being such a fucking epic mom. You loved me so much. And she still, you know, she wants to give me all that love, but it's like, you gotta get to a place where you can really give that love to yourself. It's a huge thing. And to me, that's through, you know, really connecting to God, the ultimate father, in my opinion, for me. And psychedelics helped me to connect to God on the deepest level and really understand that kind of love.
There's so much good in this conversation. I cannot wait for people to hear it. I'm so grateful you came on, that you brought Raven with you, and we got to experience this together. I can't wait to hang with you in a few days.
Yes.
The party continues.
Yes.
And just thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything you did. It's going to be really powerful for people. Much more to come.
I'm so grateful. Thank you guys for listening to this so much. I'd love to get any feedback or something. If it resonated with you, like hit me up, shoot me a DM, check out the the book when it's coming out next year. Would love to see how this connects with you and resonates with you. You can go to fydlyd.com, which stands for Fuck You Dad, Love You Dad. And yeah, thank you so much, Ali. And fuck Super Mush, like get you Super Mush, like let's fucking go. Like Super Mush is so epic, and watch how this company continues to just innovate and grow. Like you guys are building something massive, and it's cool because you and Brian and the community that you're building are an example of what business gets to look like in the new paradigm, which is you're having fun and you're devoted to it, and it's fucking got purpose, and it's like it's changing people's lives, and it's really, really cool to be a witness. So thank you for being a leader and building Super Mush.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful that Brian introduced us. We love Brian. Oh, she's here. He's downstairs. I'm going to go see him in a second. And thank you so much. We love it. We're really passionate about it. And I can tell you are too. So thank you.
Yeah.
We'll link up all your tags where people can find you.
Cool.
Gerard Adams and all the platforms. And thank you for coming on. So much more to come.
Good attitude. Peace.
Thanks for diving into the multiverse with us. If you're interested in being a future guest on the show, sponsorship, partnership, or you're just mushroom curious, we're always looking to expand our mycelium network. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Into the Multiverse, where you can find clips from this podcast, psychedelic legalization news, events that we're doing, and so much more. In addition, we've also created the world's first ever mushroom-specific marketplace called The Multiverse, which you can find on Instagram at Multiverse or online at yourmultiverse.com. We've also created our own in-house consumer lifestyle brand called Super Mush. We make mushroom mouth sprays. We make a whole line of mushroom streetwear. You can find it on Instagram at Supermush or online at supermush.com. We'll see you next week. Much love.